I am joined by the individual who takes these airwaves when I leave them now at WR at 6 p.m. He's on from 6 to 8 p.m. right here in the local market of WOR. He is, of course, a syndicated media star, but also a best-selling author who's out with a new book, Abuse of Power. This is the story of a well-known and well-informed journalist who is basically thrown off the air by a left-wing media watch group's protests and is in seeming is just basically unknown at this point, or little known, when he uncovers a plot that takes him to a lot of adventures in England and France and other places, winding up back in, I believe, San Francisco. Is that right, Michael Savage?
It is. It's San Francisco, the land of the cable car, the homeless bum, wonderful food in North Beach, and all sorts of other great sights out here. That's where I live, David, and it's a pleasure to have you have me on your show. This is amazing. You've been on only a week, and I'm one of your guests. It's a lot of fun. Abuse of Power is taken off like crazy, which is a big step for me to go from nonfiction and politics to a novel.
And that's what actually surprised me, Michael. I was walking through the halls the other day. It was right after my show, and you were on with your listeners. And I was about to go in a meeting. I never got to hear the end of what you said, so I thought maybe you'd share it with the WR listeners right now. You were asking the audience to please buy this book. You thought that this book was as important to you as anything else you've done, and I was wondering why you felt that way, because you've done a lot of things, all be them controversial, but have really inured to your benefit.
Well, if you're not controversial, you're not alive in this world of polarization. Obviously, whether you're the president or the anti-president or the would-be president, you're controversial. And the reason I went into fiction, David, is really simple. I think that the world being flooded with opinion, world being flooded with nonfiction books is a great thing. But, you know, a lot of people who are into the right wing, or if you want to put it that way, or family values, if you want to put it that way, who complain constantly about the low level of movies that are coming out, the F words, the B words. If they're not going to go out and read a novel, I don't have one F word in the novel. It's already taken off as a bestseller. I don't think you need to go to S and B and F in a novel to have people enjoy reading it. You know what I mean? So I wanted to change the imagery. I hope it becomes a movie. I hope people understand that people who are conservatives also read and write fiction. I've been, reading and writing. Yeah, that's about it. I mean,
I'm sorry. It's interesting you say that, Michael, because when I was a kid and I listened to books, I listened to the book The Caine Mutiny when I was about 13 years of age.
Oh.
And my father made a comment about the book, and he said there were no curse words in the book. But I remembered scenes where the way I remembered them, there must have been cursing going on. But Herman Wouk, the author, was able to depict that without actually having to, poison the mind of a young teenager with a cacophony of curse words.
Well, right, and you and I both know that the media landscape is filled with you turn on HBO or Showtime, you see some wonderful programs, highly produced, well-directed, well-acted, but the level of vulgarity turns me off. It's unnecessary. I mean, you can get people's attention without it. So that's one element of it. I mean, of course, there are politics in my book, and it's from my perspective, my side of the aisle, so to speak. But, David, I have to say, this is very unusual. In Abuse of Power, one of my heroes is a Muslim woman who lost her brother to the fanatics in her religion. And she works against the hand of Allah in this book. I think it's very important for people to know that I don't demonize an entire religion or entire race. I never have, I never will. But, of course, I'm smeared, and people don't understand me. But the Muslim woman, I didn't pick her just to pander to Muslims. I did it because I keep repeating on my radio show, the number one victim group for the fanatics in Al-Qaeda or the other crazy groups are the middle of the road Muslims who just want to go and pray and raise their families and be left alone. More of them have died from Al-Qaeda than have Christians and Jews put together. People don't understand that. But I have friends from Morocco and Algeria who've told me this.
We're talking with Savage. Michael Savage, that is, from the Savage Nation, and he joins us on WR News Talk Radio 710. One of the things that many people may not really know about you is that you do have an ideology that is your own, and it conflicts often with other conservatives. The other day, you were expressing great remorse at the conduct of some presidential candidates, including the current front-runner, Governor Rick Perry of Texas. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think Perry's been unfairly lionized and unfairly demonized, to be very frank with you. I would prefer Perry over Obama for a number of reasons. I know he's not a true hardcore conservative from the point of view that I am, and what I think needs to be done to save our nation, borders, language, and culture, have been the motto of my radio show for years. I have liberals who agree with me. It's a strange phenomenon. I know heavy-duty, older, pot-smoking liberals who say, you know, Mike, I agree with you on borders, language, and culture. So it's not so much that motto is offensive as it is it's very, very poorly understood. But having said all that, Perry really is an open borders guy in Texas. He's not really good on the borders. He is very good on jobs. He's very good on other issues. He is a former Democrat. He ran Al Gore's campaign in Texas, which I don't hold against him. I know the world of politics requires having strange bedfellows, so to speak. During the Dubai Ports controversy, Governor, a few years ago, which I certainly opposed the folks in Dubai taking over port security in New York and elsewhere, I enlisted Charles Schumer, of all people. He came on this show, right on WOR. Schumer did. And we agreed that the people from Dubai should not get the contract to run our port security. So you, of all people, as an ex-governor, would understand it better than I do. You have to compromise in politics to survive. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with two tin cans and a string, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Very funny. I think you have more than two. I mean, you have 50,000 watts, not two tin cans and a string.
Well, what I would say, this was before WOR kindly welcomed me here. Why do you think, Michael, because you do have such an independent point of view, you fight with conservatives, you even have some nicknames for some of the other conservative talk show hosts that are really quite facetious. Why do you feel you've been castigated and in many ways categorized?
Well, I can't say because I get under people's skin, which is my job. I mean, if we don't get under people's skin in the media, we won't last too long. Now, if you do it simply for effect too often, people will get onto that and they won't listen to you. But if you do it because you actually believe in what you're saying and you're doing it to provoke the other side into a dialogue rather than into straight-out hatred, that's another story. And I think people have come to understand I really believe in what I say, number one. And number two, I think that we need to dialogue with each other. At the end of the day, what's missing in America is dialogue. By demonizing each other, we're letting our common enemies encircle us, and that's what worries me, is our political system, our media system is so broken and so into left, right, Republican, conservative, blah, 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 that we're forgetting that there are real-world enemies out there that are taking us to the cleaners.
Well, my dream, Michael, as a new talk show host, and it's a new career for me, and I haven't done this before, is to try to create a forum where people of diametrically opposite points of view will listen and will also call. Because I think what's happened is that talk radio has almost evolved into bunker mentality. Either you're on the former Air America screaming about people who are millionaires that need to pay taxes, or you're on another a different agenda, and all you do all day is to try to think of something. President Obama stepped on an ant today. It just shows you how much he doesn't care about people or animals.
He doesn't have to
insects.
step on an ant. Governor, he doesn't have to step on an ant. Take a look at what happened in Wiener's former district. This is way beyond Obama now. I mean, we can talk about politics and focus on that situation there.
Well, please do. I'd like to hear what you think of the results.
I mean, here's a district that's been in Democrat hands since 1923. Wiener had it. He abused his power. He made a fool of himself. It wasn't that he committed such a great felony, and I've said that. I'm a sexual libertarian, incidentally. I truly don't care what people do sexually as long as they leave children out of it. That's been my position.
The funny thing is, that, Michael's, it's the first scandal I think I ever heard of where somebody had to resign over a sex scandal, and as far as we know, didn't have any sex, except for one occasion. Because
well, it just shows you what a schmuck. it just shows you what a schmuck the guy is. He didn't even get anything out of it. But having said all that, to see a Republican come in to a Democrat district that's been Democrat since 1920 and take over the district is astonishing. Whether it's a mandate on Israel or a mandate on Obama, I don't know yet. I think it's more Israel than Obama, incidentally. That's my personal feeling, and I wouldn't take that one and say, aha, Obama's finished, because I've said this on my own show. Don't underestimate this machine under Axelrod, and don't jump to the presidential election of 2012 so fast, because I don't underestimate President Obama. Believe me, I don't like any of his policies, but I don't underestimate him, I'll tell you that.
Well, here's an area where you and I, who probably have far more disagreements than agreements, I still feel that in the mythology of the presidency, once someone becomes a president, like Jimmy Carter, he floundered, he had the problems in Iran, he had the problems locally with the economy, but Ronald Reagan beat him. But Ronald Reagan was an incredible communicator. He had a humility about him. He was able to channel the fears and anxieties of Americans, tear down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev, things that Jimmy Carter could never actually say. They say Jimmy Carter stayed up all night so he could impress the cabinet in the morning. Ronald Reagan went to bed early and told the cabinet it better be done or I'm going to get rid of people. So it's a leadership issue, and if somebody doesn't step forward from the Republican Party and act like a leader and not the master of a teleprompter, I don't think they can beat President Obama. What do you think?
Well, Obama's the master of the teleprompter. He's not the master of the people, and his policies
No, but
are
see, what I'm saying, Michael, is even if, as the master of the teleprompter, once you get elected, it's going to take something to get you out, is my point.
Okay, we could argue about this from today until tomorrow. Obama has been very bad on Israel, and that's why the Jewish people of Wiener's district threw him out. That's the best I can make of it. I mean, I've heard gay marriage was an issue amongst the Orthodox Jews, but I think the bigger issue was Obama's tepid support or lack of support for Israel. And I know your time is very short, but I must tell you that my novel, Abuse of Power, is really about the abuse of power that comes from all levels of power.
Well,
and how it affects.
That's what I want to ask you. It's great to have a guest that does this, so they help you lead into the revenue-generating part of the program. But tell us, you've moved to fiction. You want a message to be sent from Michael Savage, often misunderstood. Yeah. If people came away with what view of this book would you feel that the effort was a real success?
You mean what should they take away from it? That one man can make a difference, number one. That the extremists who want to destroy us have not gone away, and they will try another 9/11, and that all of us must be vigilant, and that we must be very careful in demonizing we conservatives as being fanatics or fascists simply because we love America. And Jack Hatfield is a man who's demonized, fights back, and finds out that he was demonized not so much by a single group, but this plot will show that the conspiracy, in this case, goes all the way up to a U.S. senator who's in bed with the Al-Qaeda representative in this book, which is the Hand of Allah. But, you know, aside from all of that, Governor, it's actually a very good story. It reads very well. It's fast-paced. It even has some sex scenes in it that are not pornographic. That's the part I like best. Oh, so then congressional people could read it and hold their jobs. Yes, and also we learned that conservatives also do actually have know how to make love. I mean, we don't just wrap ourselves in the flag. So in 37 minutes and 21 seconds, the man you're hearing right now will take the airwaves on WR at 6 o'clock following me as the host of the Savage Nation. And Michael, just one last question. The main character, how much of that is you speaking to us through that voice? Well, he lives aboard a boat. I don't, but I have the boat he lives aboard. He has a 10-pound poodle named Eddie. I have a 10-pound poodle named Teddy. I was not a former war correspondent, but there are similarities in viewpoint, if not in activities. There are pieces of me as the author in several of the characters, not many, in several. But I do try to project some of my political views through the characters. But, Governor, truthfully, if it was simply a platform to express politics, it wouldn't go and he wouldn't have sold. People don't want to read that. They're really buying it for enjoyment and entertainment, which comes right